Hey there, beautiful warriors. Morgan here. I hope everyone's having a really beautiful weekend. Hope everyone's doing something fun, taking good care of yourselves, maybe slowing down, maybe getting some fresh air, getting out into nature, doing whatever you need to do for your body to heal, to feel love, to feel like it has an opportunity to be nourished. I hope whatever you're doing is feeling really good this weekend. I am coming in to share some very exciting news about what's happening for me in my life, and I guess I'd say the next part of my journey that I'm getting ready to step into. If you've been following me for a while, or if you know me, you know that I am a full-time nomad. I've been living mobily for about 4 years. I currently live in I think she's between 19 and 20 feet long, a Chevy Express van that I converted with a very good friend of mine. And I typically travel all over the Pacific Northwest. Portland, Oregon is my home base. This is where I have a lot of my community, a lot of my family. I've been residing in Portland for the last 8 or 9 years. And 4 of that I've been living mobily. So I travel all over the Pacific Northwest. I spend a lot of time on the Oregon coast. And last summer I drove down the coast and into California, and I spent 6 months wandering around Big Sur and Santa Cruz and Monterey, and absolutely fell in love with that part of California. And I came back up to Portland in February to help out some friends who were looking for someone to stay in their house for a couple of months and house sit for them while they were in Arizona. So that brought me back to Portland. But coming back to Portland has been a really interesting adventure for me. I do some work with an energy healer who I connected with before I came back to Portland, and in a session that we had, she told me that Portland was calling me, and coming back to Portland was really important right now because there were lots of gifts waiting for me. And I am absolutely blown away by how on point she was. So many really beautiful things have happened for me in the last 4 months since I've been back in Portland. I've been able to reconnect with really good friends. I've been able to take just a deep breath after being on the road for so long. I've been able to just sort of reprioritize, to check in with myself and see what the next part of my journey looks like. And I have also stepped into an opportunity to build my own tiny house, which has been a dream of mine for, I would say, 15 years. It doesn't go back quite as far as my dream to be a nomad and live mobily, but it has been part of the evolution of my process of going into more sustainable small living. And it's something that I didn't think would be a possibility for me. If you would have told me this 15 years ago, that this would be my life now, I probably would have laughed in your face and said you're crazy. And I feel really called to share this journey with you and this part of my story with you, because interwoven through the entire process of what I've been through over the last 5 years to get to where I am right now all has to do with my trauma story. It all has to do with healing from my trauma. It has to do a lot with what I have finally stepped into believing that I deserve for my life. Something that I'm getting a lot right now is I'm telling friends and acquaintances and clients about this opportunity for me to build a tiny house. A lot of the responses I'm getting are, "Oh my God, you're so lucky. I'll never be able to do that. That's such a gift. Like, you're so lucky, you're so lucky." And I've really been sitting with that for the last few weeks and seeing what that feels like in my body. And what comes up for me is this reminder not only to the people looking in at my life and looking at where I'm at today, but also myself, a reminder that where I'm at right now has nothing to do with luck. It has everything to do with the choices that I've made, the decisions that I have put into place in my life, the new boundaries that I've created, the old habits that I've decided to break away from and change, new stories that I've created for myself, and most importantly, the acknowledgement that where I was 8 to 10 years ago was not working. It was really unhealthy. I was living in a very victimized state. I was still living in my trauma. I was living in my trauma response. I was still living in fight or flight. I was living in the old story that because of who I was and where I came from and my circumstances, that I didn't deserve anything that I dreamt about, that I didn't deserve anything good, that sort of what life handed me was all that I was ever going to see. And there came a point in my own personal story where I looked around and I was so unhappy with where I was, but I didn't see any way out of it. I was working jobs that I was unhappy with, struggling week to week and month to month to pay the bills and pay rent and do all these things just to survive, that moving out of survival mode felt nearly impossible. And I have been the one that has done the work to change those stories in my life. That when I look back 8 years ago, when I was willing to wave my white flag and say, okay, I'm done, like I give up. I feel like it's easier to give up and accept this life of working really hard just to get by. That seems easier to accept that than to continue dreaming and wanting more and continuously being disappointed when I don't receive that. And then one day waking up and realizing that actually the power for me to have everything I want and the opportunity to fulfill my dreams is all within my hands. It's within my reach. But before I can do any of that, or before I could do any of that, I had to recognize that I was still living in my trauma from my family dysfunction, from narcissistic abuse, from addiction and alcoholism that was my norm growing up. That I had to realize that there was a lot of healing I had to do, a lot of subconscious belief work that I needed to do, and a lot of identifying my old stories, patterns, and beliefs that I had been living in my whole life and felt like I was a prisoner to that, realizing that I had the ability and capacity to change all of those stories going forward. And as I changed those stories, I was able to step in and start believing that I deserved the dreams that I was dreaming about. That, okay, if I want to move into a more sustainable, smaller lifestyle than, paying mortgage every month, paying the bills every month, working a job that I'm unhappy in just so that I can have a home, just so that I can have a new car, just so I can pay the cable bill. None of that felt in alignment with me. And I had to start changing those stories that if I want this as my life, if I want to go into a mobile lifestyle, if I want to have more freedom, if I want to live as a nomad who is working from the road and able to work whatever schedule I want to, that I have to make that happen. But before I can make that happen, I have to believe that I can make that happen. And that is a huge undertaking for a childhood trauma survivor. And I know that if you follow me and you watch my videos or you read my writing, that I know what you've been through. I know that the past experiences of your childhood are deeply impacting who you are today and what you feel like you believe you deserve and what you're worthy of. And I understand that so deeply because that's my story. I would never be here today where I'm at. I've accomplished starting a business. I've accomplished building out not just one van that I live in now, but my first one I built out a schoolie. So I had a larger bus before this. able to build out 2 vehicles that I lived in on the road and traveled. And now I'm moving into a new stage where I'm not necessarily giving up my mobile lifestyle. This is something that I want to continue doing, a lifestyle that I want to continue embracing. I love it very much. But now I'm moving into a next chapter where I have even more support behind me. I have this beautiful community supporting me and loving me and cheering me on, and a space where I can build a home and actually put some roots down, which I have struggled with most of my life to figure out where is home as a trauma survivor. Home is a really interesting perspective for some of us. And I am now moving into that next stage where I can build a home, I can have a home base, but I can still go out onto the road and travel. I am literally fulfilling every dream that I've ever had. And I'm only doing that because I've done the work to get here. It's not luck. It's not by chance. It's not, some random thing has just fallen into my lap. Like, beautiful gifts have landed with me, but it's because of every decision that I've made since I've decided to start healing from my trauma. All of these things that have come to me could have still come to me, but had I been in my trauma response, and had I still been in a place where I felt unworthy of gifts from other people and unworthy of support and help, unworthy of a community rallying around me and wanting to see the best for me, I would have sabotaged those things. I would have found a way to make those things not a reality for me. So I really wanted to share, in case you are in a place in your life right now where you are really wanting things to look differently, but you don't see any hope for that. You don't see how you're going to get there. You don't believe that you're deserving of that. You don't think that that's what you're cut out for in this life. I just want to tell you that that's not true. Those are all stories that have been passed down to you through trauma and dysfunction and addiction, and from adults, from other people in your life who have been through their own trauma and their own dysfunction and have not figured out how to heal from that. Until we stop that trauma and that dysfunction, we decide to heal from it, we're going to constantly feel like we're not deserving and that we don't have opportunities to create happiness and peace for our lives, but we do. And as I start my process of sharing this journey with you and my story, what I want to share so much is that this was not luck for me. This was very intentional healing, personal decisions, changing the way that I live my life, making new habits, creating boundaries, letting go of people that were no longer fueling me and supporting me and helping me along my journey, but were impeding me or holding me back or bringing me down, or just overall we weren't in alignment with each other. So there have been a lot of very difficult and very challenging decisions to make for me personally, and I know that there will be for you as well on your journey if you choose, or if you are already in the process of stepping towards healing that old trauma and those past wounds. A lot will come up for you as well. And as I continue to come in here and share this part of my journey, I want to be really transparent with how I've gotten here. So I've decided, I'm working with a really amazing business coach right now. Her name is Heidi B. And she is really she's helping me to hone my skills of being a storyteller, of sharing my story, because that's really what sets each of us apart. I was just listening to a really beautiful podcast episode of Russell Brand interviewing, I think he was talking with Wim Hof. He was doing a podcast and they were talking about, Russell Brand, as big as he is, as famous as he still gets imposter syndrome around, who am I to step out here and talk about my addiction story, about what I've been through? Like, there's a million people out there that could have this story. Who am I? And really what it comes down to is each of us has our own unique individual story. And even though I'm a trauma survivor and you're a trauma survivor, and there are many, many, many other trauma survivors out there, I'm the only one that's lived it my way, and you're the only one that has lived it your way. And your story is beautiful. And what I'm learning to do is share my story with you and hope that it will come with inspiration to dive into and understand how your story has gotten you where you are now and how it can continue taking you to where you want to be. So I am going to start a video series documenting a little bit. I'm going to go back to about 5 years ago when I was living in a house in Southeast Portland, and I was working a corporate job that I was very unhappy in. And I'm going to start there, and I'm going to share every part of how I have made what I have now a reality. Because what I hope to share with you out of that is that this wasn't luck. This didn't just land in my lap. And I think a lot of times with social media, it can really feel that way. Like, people share the good, the positive, the happy, the end result of where I'm at now. You know, you see people walking on the beach, you see people in Maui and all these beautiful locations, and sharing their wealth and their cars and what they've accomplished with their success. But very few people want to come on and share the nitty gritty, the dark, the scary, the hard, the how in the heck am I going to pay my bills this week, this month? Am I going to be able to make this work? How am I going to do this? What about all the people around me looking at me like I'm crazy, that I shouldn't be doing this? All of the details about how I started there 5 years ago to where I am now. And by no means am I where I'm not done, right? Like, there's no done, there's no finish line. It's part of my journey has come with an understanding and a lesson of, you know what, most of my life I've been excited and hopeful about getting to where I want to be, because that's going to be better. But the real lesson for me has been learning how to enjoy every step of the journey, like learning how to enjoy today, even if today I'm not exactly where I want to be. And that even comes down to right now, as I start this process of building this house, it's very overwhelming. There's a lot to think about. It's exciting, of course, but also there's a part of me that just wants to jump ahead and go, okay, I can't wait for 3 or 4 months out from now when I'm living in this house and it's all done. But there's so much that I'm like still learning on a daily basis just in the building process of this. Like, it's hitting on a lot of my trauma wounds. I'm working with a very, very close friend who we have a lot of history together, and it's hitting on some of those trauma wounds. And it's like, if I were to fast forward 4 months from now and just skip this whole process, I can't imagine how many lessons I would miss out on. And that's the part that I want to share with you. All of the lessons that I have been able to gain and learn, and a deeper understanding of myself, because I didn't just go from quitting my job and starting my dream to being in it. It's taken me 5 years to really bring a lot of this to my reality. And there have been a lot of lessons. There have been a lot of dark, scary, hard moments, but there's also been some beautiful, the growth that I've had in the last 5 years is fascinating. And sometimes it's a little bit mind-blowing. Like, it's hard to sit here and look over the last 5 years. And I think this will be a really fun experience for me as well, to document like what this 5-year period has looked like for me, how I've gotten here, and then to share that with you, so that wherever you're at on your journey, wherever you're at, it's beautiful. Even if today is the first time you like stumbled across my video and you're listening to the first person ever talk about trauma survivors and childhood trauma, your story is beautiful right here where you are today. And I am excited to share with you the details of how I've gotten here, because I want you to know that it's possible for you as well. So that's it for today. I'm going to wrap up, but expect to see me coming in here pretty regularly with new videos in this series talking about where I started and how I got here today. In addition, I'm going to be sharing some of my documentation of building this house, which is just such an amazing, insane experience. I can't even tell you. We're not very far along, and we're not very far along right now, but we're starting to put up some walls, which is really exciting. But I'll pop in here and share some videos and share some of my experiences around that as well. If you are just starting your journey, or if you are 3 months in, or if you're 2 years in, wherever you're at, if you are looking for support in continuing to heal from your childhood trauma, your narcissistic family, abuse, neglect, addiction, and you are at a stage where you know that you're ready for these things, and you know that you're ready to change your mindset, you're ready to change your habits, you're ready to create a new life for yourself, and you're ready to heal so that you can start doing that, and you would like some support around it, please do not hesitate to reach out. I would love to chat with you. I always offer a free one-on-one session so we can have an opportunity to get to know each other and see if we're a right fit to work together. There's no obligation, but you never know what could come out of that one-hour conversation together. I've had clients walk away and choose to say, this isn't quite the right time for me to do this, but I can't believe what came out of this conversation. I can't wait to go dive deeper into this, and when I'm ready, I'll be back. So please, 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 I just, more than anything, I want to be here for other childhood trauma survivors. I want you to know that you're not alone. I want you to know that there's support out here, and I want you to know that things can be different. I see you. I hope you're having a great day, and I will talk to you all soon.